Hello, my name's Angus Barker. I'm from Tuesday 9 till 12, and I'm with Chris, and this is my EUB343 assignment. So my professional experience. So I was at a P-12 school with about 1,400 students. It was a metropolitan area, and it had just a huge focus on academics. Like, I've come up through private school my whole schooling life, and I've never experienced such high academic standards, and it just is the focus of everything. So yeah, that was the school I was at. In terms of the class I was in one of 5 grade 5 classes, and my teacher, my supervising teacher, was the team leader, so like the coordinator of grade 5, I guess you could say. We ended up with 26 students. We started my PECs off with 25, but we got a little boy come over from England, and look, to be honest with you, he was probably the most culturally diverse student we had in the class. There was a pretty even mix of male and female students, and look, there was no real substantial identified learning difficulties in the class. You know, there was kids who had to sit a bit closer to the board so that they could see, because they, you know, there was those things that you find in every class, but there was no real big learning difficulties or behavioural issues in the class. It was a real struggle teaching this class, I'll give you the drum. So moving on to content, I was talking to the teacher about this assignment and what I had to do, and she was telling me that basically what this school does is, because there's such a big academic focus, and NAPLAN is one of those big focuses, what they do is they basically teach the majority of their content for English and maths, which is what they teach in the classroom. The rest is done by specialists. That's done in term 1, and most of it's assessed in term 1, so that leading up into NAPLAN, there's really only just NAPLAN to focus on. So what that meant was that there wasn't really much scope for me to bring new content in. The only real thing that we're doing was this maths investigation, and what it basically did was it drew on some concepts that were taught in term 1 but weren't really explored in much detail, and it basically took those and brings them into this investigation where students have to figure out if they can use commercial flights to make it around Australia in 24 hours, and they have to, you know, put their times in 24-hour times and apply these maths concepts to that. So basically what this did for my learning intention, because I wasn't specifically bringing in new content, I was sort of really just preparing them to be able to confidently apply these concepts into an investigation. My learning intention, of course, I had small learning intentions for each lesson where, you know, we pinpointed a bit more. My overarching learning intention, what I seemed to keep going back to, was to be confident in these concepts and being able to apply them and complete the Race Around Australia investigation. So we went through, me and my supervising teacher went through and introduced this investigation, told the students about the concepts that they'd be learning about, and, you know, went through the rubric and what would be expected of them. And after that, I sort of was doing some thinking. I was thinking, right, well, I need to figure out what these students have retained from last term, because, you know, it's been a holiday. It's been a long holiday, so 2 weeks. You know, they've obviously had heaps of content crammed into them in term 1. So I decided to do some diagnostic testing in the form of something I learned in my inclusive education class this year, which was a snowball fight. Which basically, where I asked the students, and you can see some examples on the screen there, is that I asked them to write down topic that they were confident in and a topic that they weren't confident in for the race around Australia. And I asked them to scrunch that up into a ball, and we threw them around the room. You know, it was a bit manic for a little while. Then we picked them up, and each student got to pick up a random one and had a look to see what other students had written down. We didn't write our names on them. And this was really good because there was such high standards here. It was really good for the kids to see that there were other students in the class that were also, you know, that had forgotten some things, and they weren't the only one that was, you know, feeling a bit overawed by all these concepts. And it was also really good for me because I was able to do some diagnostic testing and see, you know, what I needed to work on more. And the results from that were, you know, pretty clear for me. You know, we were confident in lots of different things. You know, of course, there's going to be things that we remember, but 24-hour time, everyone, it was our bugbear for the whole investigation. Really, was just everything we were trying to do was 24-hour time. So that was really helpful for me because I was able to tailor lessons and, you know, devote time into that rather than focusing on coordinates, which obviously most of us all understood. So yeah, in terms of feedback, so this was all done out of a textbook with the whole investigation. And so every topic I taught, we worked from a different page in a textbook which had activities. And what I did in the third week of my prac, on the Thursday night after we'd finished NAPLAN, I took all their textbooks home and I went through and I created this little list, which you can see on the board. And it's basically just all the teaching points that I had made from these lessons, you know, little catchphrases I'd been using or things that I just kept going back to. What I did was I went through everyone's book and I printed out a class set of these, and in everyone's I went through and I highlighted the things that I'd like them to revise. I think they need to revise a bit more to make sure that they're ready for their maths investigation. And then I brought them back in the next day, and in our maths block, which was 2 hours, I said to them, right, well, we've got nothing else to teach now. So what I've gone through, I told them what I'd done. I told them I'd given them some feedback, and I asked them that I challenged them. I said, right, you've got this time now. You've got me, you've got my supervising teacher, and you've also, I directed them to the OneNote, which was another place where we had a whole bunch of videos and other things that they could use to help them understand these concepts, things that we'd been talking about and linking back to. I gave them that time to say, right, with this feedback I've given you, I'd like you to go back and make sure that you're 100% confident with these things. You know, we'll do everything we can to help you. I had a whole bunch of activities planned up for that lesson. And yeah, so we took that lesson as just a big getting ready for the investigation, which was going to start on Monday. I thought that lesson was really good and it worked really well. And I think the students came out of it feeling really confident. And, you know, that was evident on Monday when we started the investigation. Before they actually started the work proper, they had to fill out this little plan. And look, we told them that it wasn't going to be assessed, but it was just something that they needed to do. And it basically was just going through and making sure that we could show that they understood what the task was asking them to do. But what I took away from it, more than my supervising teacher, was that at the bottom it had these questions about what they still don't feel confident about going into this investigation. And basically what I found, I've got 2 on the board here. These are 2 students that I picked out because they were the ones who I was expecting would probably still have 24-hour time and would still have coordinates on there as something they didn't get. But I was really positive, really surprised when I went through and I saw that everyone was feeling super confident going into it. And I thought this really showed that I'd achieved my goals of getting them, you know, achieve that learning intention of having them confident to apply these skills. And yeah, you know, there was a few that had written on, you know, they were a bit scared about using WebJet, but those were things we were able to help them with. But these things that we weren't able to help them with, the math concepts and applying them, they were super confident in using them. And, you know, I took that away. I took this as my evidence that, yep, I've done what I set out to do. You know, they're confident, they can apply it, and they're ready to go. I guess things I'd like to use more in my next prac would be probably using that feedback. I really like that feedback, that going through and doing it, but I would have liked to have done it earlier. I would have liked to have done it earlier and a bit more. You know, I would like to do it in the middle and then maybe again at the end, just because I thought it was so effective. You know, I think these results that I got came from them just being so confident that they'd had all this time to go back, and they'd been told, you know, they had a chance to have some conversations about how they were going with their learning. And, you know, I think everything shows that if you use that feedback effectively, it's such a powerful learning tool. But yeah, no, overall, I really enjoyed my prac. I really enjoyed this assignment, to be perfectly honest. You know, I thought it was really authentic, and, you know, talking with the conversations I had with my teacher about it were really good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Here are my references. Thank you for a great unit. Thanks.